Hey, good morning, NFL and Falcons fans. This is Tom Pollen with Jackson Pigskins. Another Saturday. Well, if you're in Atlanta, Saturday afternoon. If you're where I'm at, Saturday morning. But Dave Holcomb's not going to be on the show today. He has his sister visiting holiday weekend, and as we all know, Memorial Day weekend. And
I totally forgot. I had no clue today.
oh my gosh!
I'm on a whole nother atmosphere.
But our usual friend of the show, Mad Mike Sports, is here with us, and we're going to bounce a few things off you fans today because last week with the conversation Dave and I were having, we kind of started bouncing around the question about what would make this Falcon season a success in the fans' minds. Because, normally you're looking at playoffs, how far can we go in the playoffs, that kind of thing. We know that, this Falcons team really isn't cut out for playoffs this year. Or, if they do, it's going to be a tough thing. It's a lot of things have to come together correctly for this to be a playoff season. So I do have a few things put aside on my end that I want to throw by our watchers. We've been getting a lot of great feedback the last few weeks. So it's kind of what I wanted to put out there for fans, to see what we have as far as a success. And before we get going, want to give a quick shout out to Prize Picks, sponsor of the show. And with Prize Picks, if you use show code ASU, sign up, download their app, you can, they will match up to $100 of your first deposit. So you get to play with some free money. And that's always nice. We love playing with free money. But, you can, make your props. They have NBA playoff props. They have USFL. If you're still in USFL, we got props for USFL. We got props. You could get props on cricket. If you want to make props, if cricket's your game, do props on cricket. So, again, I don't have I don't have that little call up that says that gives us the little stream that Chris usually gives us. But again, download Prize Picks, support the show, use the promo code ASU, and they will match up to $100 of your initial deposit. Okay, let's get going. And this is why I'm glad to have you on today, Mike, because, because, I want to hear what you say too, because as I say, for some people, it's going to be playoffs.
Right.
It's nothing short of playoffs is what people are going to want for a successful season. But the problem is we kind of know it's not. We know that the Falcons, Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot keep saying, no, this isn't a rebuild. And they expect things to be better this year. And I think they're saying that because they want to fill the stands. They feel like if they don't say that, they're not going to get people in the stands. But I'm thinking there might be other things for fans to watch for this year that, maybe make a difference, maybe make the season interesting, even if it's not as successful on the field in the win-loss column, that it still makes Falcons fans feel good going into 2023. Pantera, before the show even started, came in first draft pick or playoffs would mean success. kind of opposite of each other because if you got
yeah, I don't get that one. You want it all. You want a first round pick and the playoffs.
Yeah. So okay. I think he means either or, but still. He also says beating the Saints twice and Brady Bucks once would spell victory also, which is, I think, a little bit more realistic, because one of the things I put down, I made some notes before the show, and one of the things I put down, would an improved record in the AFC South make you feel better about this team, that this team's heading in the right direction? The last two seasons, the Falcons are 3-9 against the NFC South. So you have 2 wins over the Panthers, 1 win over the Saints. But 2017 to 2019, team was 13-6 against the division. So, would taking a more prominent spot in the division make you feel better about this team? What do you think?
Honestly, I have a slightly different opinion. I could care less about how we do in the division, because one of the things that have plagued the Falcons for quite some time is their inability to establish a run and a cohesiveness with both the offense and defensive line, but offense and defense. You have a dominant offense, and then you have a defense that is less than dominant. And I just say it's been porous at best. So what I want to see is just that balance between the offense and defense. I want to see, the offense control the clock, run the ball, get first downs, and the defense get off the field on third downs. Yeah. Because the Falcons were one of the worst teams on defense getting off the field on third downs. So I could care less about the record, to be honest. I want to see growth first, and growth starts with coaching. So I want to be able to see these guys, improve from what we saw last year.
Okay, no, and that's another thing that I had down in my notes.
Really?
As far as would you consider it a successful season if we start seeing some strong position groups getting established with this team. And in my opinion, seeing this draft class kind of develop, because to me, that's one of the one of the problems with the Falcons last couple of years. Yeah, driving this show, I mean, we've talked about it before.
It's different drive, believe me.
Yeah. Well, I always say, without Dave, it gets a little rough sometimes. So, I'm comfortable in either seat. For me, I'm just, it's comfortable for me. So, because you're right. I mean, the Falcons were 30th on defense and third down percentage allowed. Overall, in my statistical rankings, their defensive line was 30th in the league. Right. When it comes down to stopping the run, preventing or causing negative pass plays, sacks, they've been last in the league in sacks, and to me, if you're not getting sacks, you're not getting interceptions, you're not getting enough pressure on the quarterback. No matter how good your secondary is, a good quarterback is going to find somebody. You can't stick to these guys for 4 or 5 seconds. Right. And that was one of the main issues. Unable to get any pressure. They couldn't stop the run. So it was a number of things. So, yeah, that was one of my biggest pet peeves, is not being able to get
off the field on third downs to at least try to see, what Matt Ryan and the offense can do last year.
Right. Exactly. So, but, and as I say, one of the problems I think is the fact that they haven't drafted well lately. The last couple of years, their drafts have been just incredibly just disappointing. I look at their draft list from the last few years, from Dimitrov's final couple of drafts to to last year, which was Fontenot's first. And I think there's some possibilities with what they drafted last year, finding some good, as I think Richie Grant still has some room to grow. Jalen Mayfield has to emerge this year. We've got to see Jalen Mayfield emerge as a offensive lineman. But this is how you get into salary cap hell too. You don't draft well. You don't get guys who are capable of starting, guys who are capable of being on the field, and the next thing you know, you got to pay for that talent instead of drafting guys and getting them on rookie contracts. So
overpaying for linemen that are subpar at best because you can't develop your own, and that's been one of the biggest issues. I saw it was a lack of identity when it came to Thomas Dimitrov, because when you look at his background as a scout, he was only truly qualified for a few, mostly the skill positions, cornerback, safeties, wide receivers, defensive ends, but like offensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, he's never really truly had that experience. So it's kind of one of the main reasons why the Falcons have struggled in the draft, because you have your general manager who isn't qualified for those positions, and those are your weaknesses, and you try to bring in a guy like Scott Pioli to help him out, and those guys can't get along. So
not right. Yeah.
And he ended up leaving because Thomas Dimitrov wasn't listening to anything that he had to say. So it becomes a matter of who's wrong. And honestly, hindsight 2020, but Thomas Dimitrov, like you have to understand what you're weak at.
Yeah.
And cover those weaknesses. And he refused to do that.
Yeah, because he never really was able to come up with a solid defensive lineman, a solid, anything solid on offense. 2019, well, what was it? 2019 when he, traded back into the first round for Caleb McGarry.
Yeah,
and
not right
there. And you're trading back into the first round for an offensive lineman. To me, if you trade back into the first round, it's because somebody let a prospect or, a project, somebody who projects out as a possible starter and let them slip to you in the first round. And that you trade back into the first round for that. You don't trade back into the first round for an offensive lineman. So, I really questioned that at the time. And it just hasn't worked out, from there. But you look at that 2019 draft, I mean, other than Chris Lindstrom, you got Caleb McGarry, Kendall Sheffield was just cut. John Kaminsky was just cut. Quadri Allison is...
He's hanging on by a thread. He's hanging on by a thread.
He always seems to hang on by a thread, I know. Jordan Miller is gone as cornerback. So you got nobody left, and you just can't. How are you going to establish any kind of up front and kind of identity on defense? When you fail that badly in a draft. So
it's been atrocious. It's been absolutely atrocious to see that most of the guys that even in undrafted free agents, like he's done poorly with those as well. So it's like,
yeah,
the salary cap, like you said, you're bringing in other people. I wouldn't necessarily say trash, but like they're failed picks as well. You're trying to bring those guys, Laquan Treadwell, guys like that. You have James Carpenter, who was a underachiever, high draft pick, and he underachieved. There's been so many people they brought in from other teams to try to find solid players, just solid backups at for the least. They failed in so many aspects.
And that's where your undrafted free agents come in. Is that's your end of the roster depth. That's your special teams depth. And you get nothing out of them. And it's an overall fail. You're not going to be able to establish anything. You give Matt Ryan nothing to work with on offense. And that was unfortunate. And then, I'm disappointed the fact that Ryan isn't in Atlanta, but I don't think he would have done as well this year as he did last year. I think he still would be struggling to try and make this roster work in front of him. And he's got a team around him in Indianapolis. That's going to be a tough team this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But let's get some of the we do have some reaction from some of the fans, see what some of them are saying, especially this one, because Todd doesn't think you like him very much.
I don't like him. He knows it. I don't.
Does Ritter has a shot as a starter if outplays Mariota in preseason? I would say no.
Yeah.
Mariota is going to be the starter. And this is another thing that I come back to. Is it a success if the Falcons do establish either Mariota or, unlikely, but Ritter as their starting quarterback, if they actually find the quarterback that they're looking for that, is going to be the next leader of this team for the next decade. But I don't think, I don't have much hopes for Ritter this year. I don't know how he'll develop with Arthur Smith as his head coach, but I'm not sold on Mariota developing. Do you think Mariota can finally play like that second overall pick and maybe establish himself with the Falcons? Maybe he needed this change of scenery.
After seeing Matt Ryan for 14 years, I'm a bit spoiled, so I'm going to say, hell no, I do not believe in Mariota. I don't believe in Desmond Ritter. I can't say that I believe in him. Do I think that he has, tools? I think he's one of those guys you can, put in to manage the game, but he's going to have to prove to me and the rest of the fans and just the rest of the NFL, that he can be consistent and, stay off the IR. So at the end of the day, yes, I believe he had the necessary tools to manage a game, but he yet to prove to me and others that he can, run a team. Now, he's had quite a few offensive coordinators early in his career. So he hasn't had that stability. So now he has that stability. He knows the offense. He knows Arthur Smith's offense. So it won't be a process where it takes him 2 years to get it, to really get the system down packed. So as far as Ritter, nah, I don't believe in rookies. I'm the type of person you got to put 3 years together before I say that you're ready. I've seen quarterbacks have one good year, and the next couple of years they go straight down. So yeah. I'm hard on quarterbacks. I really am hard on quarterbacks.
No, actually, I agree with you because I truly believe what you see in 3 seasons is what you're going to get out of the quarterback.
Absolutely.
Around the 3rd season, because I'm not spoiled as far as watching a good quarterback.
Chicago is a little bit different.
We're a place where quarterbacks go to die. I mean,
I thought you had a good quarterback with Jay Cutler, but Cutler, I don't know what happened to him.
Well, the problem with Cutler was a good quarterback, and I think the Bears could have won with Cutler. The problem is Lovie Smith was the head coach and excellent defensive coach. I mean, the Bears had just some kick-ass defenses those years.
Oh, yeah.
Lovie Smith wouldn't know a good offense. He wouldn't know. He just had no idea what a good offense looked like. He had no idea how to hire an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And they had some terrible offensive coordinators. They made some bad moves on offense. And, I think it undermined Cutler. It made it a little tough for him to shine in Chicago. And it's kind of what I think, worry about Lovie Smith in Texas with the Texans. I'm glad to see him get another shot as a head coach. You're talking about the first black head coach to take his team to a Super Bowl. Of course, Tony Dungy was the second one, later in that afternoon. But this Lovie Smith has some accomplishments behind him. But, again, the Texans don't have an identity on offense. It's going to be rough for that team to win with Lovie Smith as head coach because I don't believe in him knowing how to coach an offense. So that's kind of where I'm at with Smith. But, Arthur Smith, I like the fact that he has worked with Mariota, but, it's also kind of like what we had with Mitch Trubisky here. After Trubisky's 3rd season, you did not see any improvement.
Yeah. Wasn't getting better at all.
No, you could see he had no idea what was happening in front of him. No ability to read defense. I always said, Trubisky couldn't read a defense if it lined up across from him in large print. It just wasn't going to happen. But so, I agree. You get 3 years. So I'm not optimistic about Mariota. That's why I don't think we're going to count a successful quarterback transition as a success for this season because I don't believe in Mariota. And you made another point, staying off IR because he is prone to injury, and which is not good for a running quarterback. I mean, let's face it, running quarterback. So, let's see. We got Dave's success for me is watching the Falcons week to week establish an identity. You mentioned that earlier, establishing an identity. This is who we are on offense and defense. And that's why I'm hoping they finally get a draft that works out well for them this year, because I don't think they've had that. Well, not that I don't think they've had that. They haven't had that. And I forget how you pronounce the second round draft pick's name, the defensive end.
Ebiketie.
Okay.
Ebiketie.
Yeah. So, to me, if nothing else happens this year, if he establishes himself as a true edge rusher, as a guy who can put pressure on the quarterback, that works. For me, that's almost just by itself is a successful season. Because now you're developing an attitude on defense that you just didn't have with Dante Fowler as your defensive end, Jack McKinley or Beasley, or never established themselves as the guys who defenses had to worry about up front. You want guys defenses have to worry about. He just wasn't it.
It's been the Grady Jarrett show for quite some time, and that's the issue. It's Grady. We'll double, we'll triple team Grady.
Exactly.
No one stepped up.
Yeah, exactly. It's just impossible to do anything, by yourself in the middle of an offensive line. So, it was incredibly disappointing. It's been disappointing for me watching the Chargers without seeing any kind of identity. Because if you're going to win in the NFL on defense, you do have to step up and hit somebody in the mouth. I mean, just
that's what it comes down to. You have to be physical. You have to be willing to take it, take that extra step on defense. Play on the edge. That's why I say you got to play on the edge. You can't be on a team that plays by the rules if you're going to be a good overall team. You got to get dirty. You got to hit people after the whistle. You got to grab the quarterback's thumb and try to, twist it a bit. So those are the types of defender I want. Like, play on the edge, man. I love it.
Yeah. You got to have guys who are willing to hit, willing to get dirty, willing to mix it. And it's, so I'm hoping, Ebba Kitty. I'm hoping he is that guy that gives the Falcons that kind of identity that can help start establishing that identity. Because I think you're going to see a better Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
We can get that.
He's excited. Like he said in an interview that this is probably, the most energetic that he's been and had more fun so early in camp. Like, he's having fun again. So I know he's happy. You see a happy Grady Jarrett. That's a good sign.
Oh, it's all good. It really is. Let's see. All right. Well, Todd says Peace should be on the field, not up in the box. That's not necessarily driving success. I don't know. But Larry Orange is a little bit doesn't quite have the. I don't know, not looking for a whole lot to call this a success. Winning 7 games and finishing ahead of Carolina.
7 games. I'm expecting playoffs, but like I said before, I could care less if we make the playoffs and we don't establish, like you said, an identity. I need to see that improvement from both sides of the ball. I have to see that.
So, we had Cindy last week. She said, can we just please beat the Bucs? I'm like, there's some improvement. I mean, if you're looking for improvement, I guess that
I think he just means can we finally beat Tom Brady? We beat the Bucs. That's not an accomplishment. Can we please beat Tom Brady for a chance? I think that's what he means.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But as far as finishing ahead of the Panthers, Panthers don't scare me.
That's not an accomplishment for me. No disrespect to Carolina, but that's not an accomplishment for me.
That's not an accomplishment. Because you got a team that's going to be quarterbacked by Sam Darnold. And
right.
It's just...
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not an accomplishment.
So yeah, you should finish ahead of the Carolina Panthers.
Goodness.
But this kind of goes back to what I was saying, improved record in the NFC South, because you got the NFC South has kind of come back down a little bit, in my opinion, because the
quarterback play is atrocious right now. Like we outside of is there Tom Brady?
Other than Tom Brady,
we have no clue what's going to happen.
The Saints are going to ride with Jameis Winston again, and he had a good year. Sean Payton kind of reined him in a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if Winston was as effective last year. He was more efficient.
Efficient, yeah. I don't know about effective, yeah.
But yeah, it didn't seem like he had, without that option of going deep that he had in Tampa. I don't know if it's the same thing, but you got the Saints with a new coach.
Offensive coordinator, play caller. That's going to be differently. Sean Payton is one of the greatest play callers in the history of the game. So, like, I who believes in what's his name? Pete? Is it Carmichael? The offensive coordinator. I'm sorry. I don't believe in him. I don't think he's in the last few years, being 10 years or so, being with the team. I don't remember him ever calling plays.
No, he really hasn't. It's funny because there was a time when he was considered a head coach candidate, but it's been a long time since he's been considered a head coach candidate. So, with Dennis Allen, again, another coach, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. The one thing I expect to see, I don't know if we're going to see it, but the Taysom Hill experiment should be over. I don't know what anybody.
Wow.
Sean Payton's a great coach, but he kept screwing around with this Taysom Hill thing. And to me,
running backs, quarterback, like this dude played every position the same.
Anytime you take Drew Brees out of the offense, you're weaker. And he would voluntarily take Drew Brees out for a play or two to put Taysom Hill in, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I'm also wondering about the Bucs this year because, that whole situation.
And Dominican Sue is yet to sign with a team. I think he's still a free agent. So
he's still a free agent. He's still out there. And you're right. He really was the heart of that defensive line last year. With that whole situation with Brady retiring, Brady coming back, and suddenly Bruce Arians stepping down. There's stuff going on there that, behind the scenes that I wonder about. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's smoke there. There's something went on there that kind of tore apart the cohesiveness of that team. So I think the Falcons can have a better divisional record this year. I think they can catch up to the division a little bit this year. I don't think they're good enough to win the division, but if I would think that, finishing ahead of the Saints, finishing ahead of the Panthers, being second in the division even, could be called a success. You could say, you could feel good about this team moving forward and say, okay, we have things in the right direction finally. That's let's see. We got Play of Smoke. Mad Mike, do you think second year in DP's system, our defense will be a top 10 defense? Again, we're talking about, is that for you, is that the success if they can get to be a top 10 defense? That would take a lot of improvement over last year. Because as I say, my statistics, the statistics I use to predict games and kind of get a good feel for the strength of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Falcons, as I said, their defensive line, in my opinion, was 30th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They were 30th in my power rankings overall in the NFL last year.
Oh, rightfully so.
So, do you think at least Dean Pease can make a bigger difference this year with the Falcons than what he did last year? Or is it up to the material that he has to work with?
Well, he's more confident. Again, he was interviewed by a few reporters, and he stated that last year he was about 60% confident with the roster. This year he says that he's 100% confident in the roster, and just based on that, I believe the Falcons defense will be much better. I think you're going to see a team that's more focused on what I call the small, intricate details of football, getting off the field on third downs, applying pressure, not necessarily, getting sacks, because, sacks can be misleading at times, but yes. constant pressure is what most teams are going, because you want to get the quarterbacks off the spot with pressure. So you move the quarterback around, anything can happen if you move him off the spot and force him, to make those uncomfortable off-balance throws. But as far as top 10, you talking to the wrong person when we talk about top defenses. I could care less about a top 5. I could care less about a top 10, because we saw San Francisco get to the Super Bowl. They were the number 1 ranked defense, and they absolutely laid an egg. We saw Buffalo against the Chiefs, and they absolutely bombed in the playoffs. So I could care less about. What I care about now is efficiency. Can you get off on third downs? Can you apply stop the run on first down? Those are the things that I focus on. Stopping the run on first down, getting off the field on third down. That's where defense really makes their money. Yeah.
I can't argue with that, because, last year Buffalo had one of the best defenses in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Then in a lot of ways, one a top defense in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came down to it, getting a stop on Mahomes when they really needed it,
mm-hmm.
They couldn't come up with it. And so you get to that point where, again, just look for the little things. Look for the things that make a difference. Because the problem with not getting off on third down is eventually you're giving Matt Ryan a lot more room
mm-hmm.
to have to drive to get the ball into scoring range.
Mm-hmm.
And that the Falcons were terrible at last year. They had the Ryan never had, getting in the positive field position was almost impossible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was never working with positive field
position. You got to go 70 yards each drive. You have to go 70 yards. That's incredibly difficult for any quarterback to consistently go for 70 yards.
Yeah, and that's what he was tasked to do with last
mm-hmm.
year. Again, one of my rankings, the Falcons turning yards into points. The more yards you have to cover to get
mm-hmm.
your points, the tougher it's going to be for you. You're not going to.
You can't be aggressive.
Succeed.
You can't be aggressive. That's one of the things. You can't be aggressive if you're constantly having to go 70 yards. When you got to go 30, 50 yards, 50 yards, about 30 to 50 yards. If you can keep it in that range, the play caller can be more aggressive. He can take more chances because if he decides to take a deep shot, he knows that he's going to be in enemy territory. It's going to be the defense is going to be in better position to apply pressure themselves. So if you want more aggressive defense, you want more aggressive offense, you got to be able to,
right,
help the quarterback get in decent field range.
Exactly. That made a huge difference last year. It's made a difference the year before. It's something the Falcons have had a problem with for quite a while now. And, we discuss it every week. And it's just it's disappointing because, as I say, you had a Hall of Fame quarterback, and I know a lot of people didn't feel good about Matt Ryan the last couple of seasons, but a lot of that I don't think was his fault, or the problem was not with it was the fact that you weren't putting him in a lot of good situations. You were going to have problems no matter who was your quarterback. Considering the kind of situations you put him in, how far he had to go.
Olamide Zaccheaus was our number one a lot of our game last year. Calvin wasn't available. Olamide Zaccheaus, who has he's a small guy. When he's your number one receiver and Russell Gage is inconsistent, it's difficult for any quarterback to be able to, be successful with that.
Right, exactly. Zaccheaus is not made to go over the middle or take short routes. No. He's made this. He's there to stretch the defense.
Absolutely.
That's why he is on the roster. and I don't think he ran too many deep routes last year.
No, he really didn't. We really didn't have time to. It was two. He maybe had 2 seconds to get rid of the ball, and look, that's that. You got to have at least 3 to 4 seconds to have a decent shot downfield.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's another thing is Kyle Pitts. You got a tight end who can get downfield, but you have no chance to make anything happen with him because just isn't the time. And
he's still a rookie. He still has to learn how to run proper routes, NFL veteran routes. Like that's one thing about this. The only thing about this game that I think that is lackluster at the moment is him not understanding how to utilize his body and his size as a tight end. That's one thing that if you look at Jason Witten, he's the perfect guy because the dude has absolutely no speed whatsoever, but he always knows how to find those creases and run the proper routes, use his body, and that's what Kyle Pitts needs to work on if he wants to be the greatest tight end.
I agree with you. To take that next step from top rookie to being a Pro Bowl tight end. Yeah, he does have to take that step. So, but I have a lot of faith in him. I like Kyle Pitts. Raw talent. I mean, the guy is amazing. You're talking about position groups earlier, and coming off of wide receivers. This is kind of a tall wide receiver group that's coming in. With Drake London as the first-round draft pick. But how much faith overall do you think is this team capable of taking this group of wide receivers and actually doing something with it? Because to me, you have Zaccheaus. You brought in who was it? Brian Edwards, which I thought was a great pickup. But you got Drake London, and you have a lot of names. You know, you're throwing a lot of names at the defense without any, I don't know, without anybody actually scaring a defense. How do you see this wide receiver position playing out? And I mean, can we see is success seeing some of these guys at wide receiver establishing themselves? Because to me, that's going to be rough. That's going to be that's going to say a lot about where this team is going in the future, as far as how they develop.
Well, if you know anything about Arthur Smith, that he learned from guys like Mike Mularkey, he runs similar schemes to Kyle Shanahan. They like to use a lot of. It reminds me of the old San Francisco Steve Young teams and their passing schemes. T.O. in his we talking about early T.O. when he came in. You know, he kind of set the league on fire with a lot of, slants, crossing routes, using his big body, getting a lot of yards after catch, a lot of yak yards. That's what you're going to see. This offense is designed to punish wide receivers. Let's just be honest. That's why you go out and you get the biggest. He went out and get the biggest receivers because he wants to physically dominate these DBs. So it opens up a lot. It opens up the running game when your corners are tired of trying to tackle a 6'6", 240, 250-pound Kyle Pitts, and then you got to look at Brian Edwards, who's about 6'3", 200 himself. You got Alden Tate, he's about the same size. Smaller corners at some point in time, they're not willing to tackle running backs. And if you constantly have to do that play after play, tackle these big guys, you're going to get tired. So I don't think the Falcons wide receivers are going to scare anybody as far as their explosiveness, but they're going to wear teams down with their size, physicality, and like I said before, with that size, DBs don't want to constantly have these big guys, even on running downs. The physicality. That's why the Falcons went out and got, Fitzpatrick from Georgia. This dude is humongous. He's big. So he wants to physically dominate team and wear them down in the fourth quarter. So fourth quarter comes, you can hand the ball off to guys like Tyler Algier, Quadri Olison if he makes the team, Damian Williams. He wants to physically dominate. So I think people, if you want exciting football, maybe this is not the team for you. But they're going to physically dominate their opponent, and you're going to see games where teams quit in the second half of games because the Falcons are going to physically dominate guys. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a lot like the Chicago Bears games, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be a lot like the Chicago Bears game where it's 21-17, 21-10, 21-14. This is what you're going to see from the Falcons. So do not prepare to be excited about it. It's not going to be – it's going to be a lot like the Pittsburgh, Chicago Bears type of games where it just physically dominates.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's fun football.
Oh, yeah.
I'm used to watching.
I love it.
Guys being physical, guys, laying guys on the ground and making it tough for defensive backs, and to me that's fun. If I see some of that, I'm like, yeah, you're having a successful season because you're that's establishing an identity on offense. So it's. I don't know. To me,
it reminds me. It really does. The attitude. I keep saying, and this is why I'm not upset. We have a lot of people that are upset that we're getting Chicago Bears, a lot of Tennessee Titans players coming, but that's the beauty thing. Like when you look at the Chicago Bears, they want to play a certain style. We know that Tennessee wants to play a certain style. So when I see them bringing in these Tennessee Titans and former Bears, I get excited because I know the type of football they're going to play. Physical. At defense. We're going to play physical and we're going to play defense.
Yep. Yeah. And I think Arthur Smith wants that kind of team. Yeah, exactly. It's what he had in Tennessee. He didn't have a lot of he was a tight end based offense in Tennessee. He loved using his tight ends in Tennessee. And loved using, love having the big, strong players. And, the one problem difference we have here that, here in Tennessee is unfortunately, there's no Derrick Henry and, there's no Derrick Henry anywhere else in the league.
Right.
And to me, I would be happy to see the Falcons establish something on the ground this year.
Yes.
Because, again, and part of this goes back to the offensive line. You're making first contact with the defense about a yard off the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do any damage that way. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get through. So, but yeah, to me, I need to see more consistency out of that running game because to me, Cordero Patterson was the best runner on this team last year. He shouldn't be the best runner on your team.
No,
he's the gadget guy. He's the guy who gives you a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
If he's your top rusher, yeah, you got something wrong. And I know we did get a comment earlier about Mike Davis, as far as him being trash or from Todd. Mike Davis was a disaster. Yeah, he was, but it wasn't all Mike Davis. The fact that he didn't have a chance to really, you got to give a running back time to get up ahead of steam.
Yeah.
And he never really had that opportunity. Cordero Patterson, if you gave him the ball in space, he's strong enough to shed that first tackle and he'll make positive yards for you. Mm-hmm. Anybody trying to go into that line of scrimmage last year was going to have problems. Derrick Henry would have had problems.
There weren't enough space. Teams were loading the box, and that's where he was talking about the yards of contact. Like I think Mike Davis was like 2.2 yards. He was getting hit about 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and that has everything to do with the lack of space. And then this is why you draft, and people weren't happy when I said this. This is why you draft a Drake London. I wasn't necessarily happy because I'm a defensive guy. I wanted the big guy, Jordan Davis, but I understood that the offense, if you're going to have success on offense, you need space. You need the wide receivers to command double teams so you can occupy that safety, keep that safety at bay, and you can find those creases. The offensive line can get to second level. Guys like Chris Lindstrom. Chris Lindstrom is magical when he gets to the second level. And so is Mayfield and Matthews. Those guys get to the second level. They're superb athletes. So you get that extra space, get that wide receiver, and this is why you saw the Falcons go out and get these bigger wide receivers, because a lot of times last year with the Falcons is that, Cordero would have the space, but the receivers were so small they couldn't keep the defensive backs off of them. Right. And, they immediately – Cordero could have easily went for 1,000 yards if he had the extra space to kind of do things once he broke the line of scrimmage. So those are the main things with the Falcons.
Yeah, no, I get that. Definitely. Because I think back to the Bears when they had Brandon Marshall. And Marshall wasn't just an incredible wide receiver. He was a blocker. He would put his body in.
Blocker. Oh, yes.
And it's amazing how effective that was, how effective that made the Bears offense. When you had, even with Brandon Marshall not getting the ball, you could count on him to make that big block downfield, get you a few extra yards. And that's the exact advantage of having that big wide receiver group. Because now you do have guys who, Patterson is going to benefit. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. But who do you think emerges from the running back room to kind of take over that job this year and take over being that main back? Because I don't want to see Cordero Patterson being the main back. I just don't want to see it. So
yeah, I don't want to see Cordero as well. My heart's telling me Quadri Overson, but my mind is telling me that Damian Williams is going to be that guy to set the standard and set the pace for how the running back should hit those holes, and you have those those plays where pick up a blitz, step in, because blitz pickup is huge in the NFL.
Right.
Like you have to be able to pick. You have to be able to pick up those blitzes. So I think Damian Williams is going to be the guy that sets the pace, and I'm looking for him to have a bigger season than most. But like I said, my heart is telling me my heart wants Quadri Overson because he has the body structure of a Derrick Henry. He's a big running back. He goes about 240, and he has that breakaway speed. And if he can just continue to secure the ball, continue to work as a pass protector, he has the tools. He has the physical tools.
Okay, that's interesting because I really, I don't get to see Ellison much. So it's interesting to hear that because
he had a spark. He had quite a few sparks towards the end of the season because Cordero, like I said, was kind of breaking down a bit, wearing down a bit, and it brought Quadri Overson, and he had he had a few games where it's like, all right, I can see his potential, but when he fumbled, he had those mistakes. He fumbled. Arthur was like, okay, you're back on the bench. So he's going to have to work on his ball security and, those small intricate details of playing the running back position if he wants to get, consistent play.
Algier, do you think he's someone who could step in and maybe make a difference with the Falcons at running back?
For some reason, I see him as a Kevin Falk type of guy. You come in on those, third downs, catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he's going to be a spark guy for the Falcons this year. I don't expect him to be, the starter. But I think he's going to be that guy that comes in, get a few touchdowns here and there, get a first down, catch the ball out of the backfield, those things. I think he's going to be the spark guy because I don't think they're going to use Cordero early in the year as often as they did last year. I think he's going to be, as the season goes on, and they'll bring in Cordero and let him do what he does. But, yeah.
I love Cordero, but and don't get me wrong, I do love his game. I was angry when the Bears didn't re-sign him, and he ended up.
Yeah, he's just a special guy. He's a special guy, man.
And Dave makes a couple of comments as we're finishing up the show, which I'm tired of watching the Falcons get pushed around every week. And that's kind of what we've been saying, the entire show, Dave. Watching this Falcons team, right. It to me, the season's a success if they establish that identity. They're not going to get pushed around. This is a team that's going to stand up and as I say, kind of punch in the mouth style football. Going to stand up and make sure that you've played a football game after you leave Atlanta. And hopefully that gets the fans excited. Because as I say, I don't think this team is built for playoffs this year, but I think establishing the identity, you're going to get a lot of free money under the cap next year.
Oh yeah.
That $60 million dead cap goes away next year, and there's going to be room to make some moves. So establishing that identity, you can make moves to reinforce that identity in 2023. That's when you're going to see a playoff team if you see a tougher Atlanta Falcons team this year. So, that's the way I look at it. You want to finish up, Mike, and we'll sign off?
Yeah, just one comment about Tyler Algier. If you know anything about me, I'm not going to put these rookies on a pedestal. Let's just these are NFL players. Until they step on the field and prove it to the players, the veterans, you can't come out and say, all right, this guy's going to be – you very seldom see a Tom Brady coming out of the draft until he immediately sets the league on fire. You're not going to see that often from a lot of players. So I understand what Tyler is, but I understand what Desmond Ridder is. I understand what Drake, but these guys are going to have to prove it. And far too often these days, everybody wants to say this guy's going to be. You're not going to see a Jamar Chase. Like we're spoiled people. We're not going to see a Jamar Chase every year. We're not going to see a Peyton Manning come out and light the league right off the bat. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see Matt Ryan like that. We have been spoiled with greatness for quite some time with these quarterbacks and guys like I said, like Jamar Chase. You're not going to see that often. So until I see it, until they prove it on the field, I'm not putting any of these rookies on the pedestal.
Right. No, but that's the thing. That's all you hear during OTAs and team activities is how great these rookies are looking. This is a fantastic rookie class. Until you get them into training camp and get them on the field, week one.
Those pads hit different. You look good in training camp without the pads, but once you put those pads on, it's a different story.
It's a whole different story because the entire game changes coming in from college.
Believe that.
Yeah. So we're pretty much out of time. I want to thank Mad Mike for being on, coming on for Dave this week.
Appreciate
it. Give a shout out to Dave. Hope he's having a good time this weekend with family. Hope all of you have a good time with family this week. Memorial Day weekend. Really take the time to remember your family, be with family, and kind of reflect on family. It's really it makes a lot of difference to me. So everybody have a great weekend. One more shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Remember, you get a $100 match up to $100 match up. They will match your first deposit up to $100. I finally got that right. Dave, I need you to read this stuff next week. Come on. You got to come back next week. I almost drove the show into a wall right there at the end. But
it's all right. It's not as easy as people make it seem. It's not.
It sure isn't.
How to read from the script. It's not easy at all.
But everybody have a great weekend. Have a wonderful time with your family on Monday, and we hope you join us next week, 12 noon, 11 noon Eastern, 11 Central. Tom Holland with Mad Mike Sports. You can also catch me if you want to talk football during the week. Yeah. This doesn't stop for me. Catch me TJ Pollen on Twitter.com. I always love talking with the fans. If you got anything to say, let me know. Mm-hmm. But again, we appreciate all the comments. We appreciate you guys spending your time with us today. And everybody have a great week.